Hi, this is Sylvia McCrory with Christian Parenting Today. I have a new book for you that I hope you will buy. I hope that you will read it. Check it out at your local library, wherever you can find it. It is called Wired Child, Reclaiming Childhood in a Digital Age by Richard Freed, PhD. This book is a book that describes what is happening to our children when they are online and what's happening to their brains, how they are becoming addicted, and how they are being used and we are being used. We are told if we are an older generation that we're just not with it, that we are not tech savvy, and that our children are growing up in an age of technology and we need to let them use the technology. And that's just absolutely wrong. We need to do the research before we just hand this technology over to our children. Our children don't understand everything that's going on in the digital world or in technology, and they do not need it. It is not there for their benefit, nor is it there for their safety. And I'm just going to kind of go through his book. I've got several bookmarks, and I just really want to show you and tell you a couple of things. One thing, or it's going to be more than a couple, but one thing is we have lost our family time. We are already busy and stressed out, and now children and parents, so I'm getting after parents too, come to the dinner table with their devices and their cell phones, and they're checking them. We need to stop that. We need to put it away unless we think that grandma's seriously ill and her condition could get worse, or we're expecting something important. Let it go. Let it go. Spend time with your children, spend time with your family at the dinner table. Talk about them, talk about their lives, show interest in them. Let them show interest in you. But this communication, we need it, and it is important for the mental health of our children. It is important for us and parents. I'm going to tell you, my kids are grown and they no longer live at home. 2 of them are married. It's going to go by fast, and you're going to wish that you could have it back. I would love to have just all 3 of my children around the dinner table once a year. But anyway, that's another story. But it's because one son lives in Colorado, one in New York, and one lives here, so I do get to see one. But anyway, okay, so it's important that we do that, and so this book has some suggestions and some ideas to help get away from the digital world and how we need to get our children back to what we grew up with, which brings up one other point. When we were growing up, and I grew up in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s, so when we were growing up, some people say, well, I didn't have that great a relationship with my parents. Maybe not, but we knew our place, and we knew we were going to be at the dinner table, and we knew we were going to be on time, and we knew if someone asked something of us, we responded. We did not ignore it, nor did we talk back. Anyway, that's a different book that's coming up. So let me just read to you a couple of things. One is, since technology has become so prevalent and we have to think we think everybody needs it, that in children, and this was reported in the New York Times in 2013, children from the ages of 4 to 17 have been diagnosed with ADHD up an alarming 41% in the past decade. The more technologies out there, the more cases of ADHD we have. Now, it goes on to say that, in this book, Richard Freed, he's writing, I've tested a number of children for ADHD only to find that their symptoms, falling grades, and lack of homework completion were caused by overuse of video games and TV. Once parents got control of their children's tech habits and provided structure around homework, the symptoms went away. Would these kids have been diagnosed with ADHD if no one asked questions about their screen habits? Probably. So guys, we need to control it for our kids and for our kids' ability to focus. Okay. In Wired Child, he talks about many, many things, but one of them is our addiction to video games. And video games is just one, but our addiction to video games. So when children are playing these video games and they get these little rewards, there has been research done about how often they should get these rewards to keep them playing the game, and how hard the game should be, and if the children are walking away. So what these rewards do is it releases dopamine, and this dopamine makes us feel good. So we want to keep playing so we can get more dopamine, so we can feel good, so we stay in the game because it makes us feel good. Parents, I hate to say this, but we are getting that same dopamine when we're on these social media sites and we're looking at the pictures and we're scrolling at the pictures, and before you know it, you are looking at something with puppies or monkeys or goats or something, you know, those cute little videos, and before you know it, you have spent 30 minutes of wasted time that you will not get back doing something senseless that has no purpose and no meaning. You have just lost part of your life and you let someone else do it to you. The same thing is happening to children, and the same thing with girls and their social media, except with girls, it's more about their image and how they should look, and we are buying into it, and we are letting children have it without control, and we are giving it because everybody else has got it, and I don't want my child to be the only one that has it and that doesn't have it, and we're giving it to them at younger and younger and younger ages. Stop. Stop. Those people are hurting their children. Just because they're letting their children play out in a busy highway does not mean you should be letting yours. And I'm going to be telling you more and more about this busy highway and all those dangers that are out there where we're letting children play. But anyway, this, in Wired Child, I want to read to you this passage that I hope you will find alarming. On its Redmond, Washington campus, Microsoft has a sophisticated human research lab called Playtest. At this sprawling facility, Microsoft psychologist and user research lead Tim Nichols and his staff study children as they video game, delve deep into their minds, and collect mounds of data to create products that perfectly exploit the proclivities of young brains. Because of such efforts, Microsoft is considered the gold standard in user research. Did you hear that? Children are being used. Across the video gaming industry, scientists bring kids and young adults into state-of-the-art labs to observe them as they game. One-way mirrors and cameras record the facial expressions of subjects while they play. If children look away from the screen, they're questioned to find out why. Behavioral techniques are used to fine-tune the game to make an end product kids can't look away from and can't put down. Our children are being used in experiments to addict other children. This is done purposely. It's not a consequence that no one knew. It is done intentionally. If the child looks away, they want to know why. The industry's increasing use of experts in human behavior combines with advancements in measurement techniques to push the bounds of user research. Popular video game maker Valve employs experimental psychologist Mike Ambinder. At his lab, players are hooked up to biofeedback devices that measure skin conductance, which shows player arousal level, and track their eye movements to gauge where players are looking in real time. Results inform game development. So if a child is not interested, or if a child becomes bored with a game, if a child gives up on a game, they change it. They study it to find out what is going on. They want your children, and they want your children to be hooked up to their games and not walk away. This sounds like something that would have been science fiction, but guess what? It's here, and it's our children, and we are buying them these games, and we are buying into it. And guys, the only way you're going to know about it is if you do some research, because they're not going to tell you. The other thing is they are sucking our kids' lives away. If game designers are going to pull a person away from every other voluntary social activity or hobby or pastime, they're going to have to engage that person at a very deep level in every possible way they can. That's a remarkable description of game designers' motives. For children, voluntary activities include running around outside, spending time with their family, or putting effort into homework. Game designers are pulling them away from the healthy things that they need in life. And we think that these are toys, and they are not. Okay. It just goes on to talk about some of the self-control things and ways that we can control that. But be careful when you are told that you are just not tech savvy. Be careful. You are the one that's smarter. You are the one that's not buying into it, if you're not buying into that. Okay, one other thing that I wanted to say is this one right here. Military science scholar Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman and media literacy educator Gloria DeGanto offered advice. The trend of giving video games to toddlers, preschoolers, and elementary school children must stop. Even if parents are introducing only non-violent video games at this stage of development, it is going to be so much more difficult to keep the kids away from the violent ones. Just the nature of video games in and of themselves make them potentially addictive. Video game systems are just not developmentally appropriate for children. Okay, so guys, there's just so much more in here. I encourage everyone, as a matter of fact, I bought this book for my son and daughter-in-law, and they are currently reading it. But why your child is important to know what we are doing to our children just because we are buying into the media hype. Be careful. Just because everybody else is doing it, don't do it. Now, before I go, I want to share a Bible passage with you, and this is from 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. Be sober-minded, be alert. Your adversary, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for anyone he can devour. Folks, I firmly believe that Satan is in many of these things. And sometimes it's not that obvious, but when our children are being robbed of family time, of church time, of time that they are spent doing things for good, and their brains are being turned to be selfish and narcissistic, the devil's behind that. You can count on that. Guys, please go out and read Wired Child. Pick up a copy of your own, because if you're like me, I have dog-eared a lot of the pages. I have highlighted so much because I have gone back and read it more than once. Take the book. You won't be sorry. Have a great day and go and be a blessing to someone. Thanks.